Thank you, Laura, again for organizing everything, and thank you all for being here. It's super exciting. So that today we're gonna talk about innovation. My name is Pamela, by the way. I have seen each other just here and there, but yeah, I bring this topic because I studied food chemistry a while ago, some years ago, and I have worked in the food industry as a food product developer, which means, okay, someone has an idea of a product, and then we go to the lab, produce it or create it, then we test it, and then we do everything that we have to do so that the product is finally in the supermarket for the people to actually buy it. So that's this whole process. And maybe this series of steps can be super specific for the food industry. However, if we do a step back, we can see that there's a logic behind the product development. And I think that this can be super useful and exciting, not only for food, but for any product or even service that you want to create. And also, actually, if you want to do some change in your life, I think that you can transfer some of these insights. And this is why I think that it can help us navigate the unknown and really materialize whatever we have in our heads. So let's go to it. And I want to dedicate this talk to anyone who dreams big, but find challenging to actually make the execution and give the next step. So I just shared a little bit about me, that I'm in food, and I will be curious if someone from here is creating something or thinking about launching something. You don't necessarily have to share what are you creating, but it can be cool to know in which industries you are if you have something in mind.
I would say that I am in the I'd say I'm in kind of the self-help personal development industry.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Really cool. Yeah.
I want to restart my candle and home decor business. Well, I say restart. I only started it last year for a few months and then I had to stop. So I haven't had like lots of sales or anything, just a few friends. So I want to get into that and like stick with it.
Super exciting. Super exciting. Thanks for sharing. Well, the examples that I'm gonna bring here are related to the food industry. I think that it will illustrate all these steps, but my suggestion is that at the end, we can, if you have questions, we can go and discuss how would it look like for your specific creation, if you want. But let's dive into. So imagine that you're in the unknown and suddenly you have a great idea, like the candles, or you don't necessarily know what do you want to create. So now what do you do? I think that the first thing that can help is to understand where are you standing, and that can guide you already to give the next step. And this is the framework that I can share today. I didn't create it. I have been learning it from the works, from the places that I've worked for and for other engagements that I have been at. There are multiple versions here and there. This is a very simplistic view, and we're going to go step by step. And something that I also want you to notice right now is that by every step you have like an arrow coming back, which means that it's wise and it's normal and it's okay to correct or to make it differently. So with that being said, let's start with the problem definition. And just as our dear Stasha said in the last talk, it's useful to start with why. So in this case, okay, why is a problem still a problem? Like maybe you have an idea, but for what? Or what purpose? What do you want to solve, or what do you want to address? And I think here is where you can start understanding the need or the purpose before really jumping a solution. And I said that because sometimes you create a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. Or, you know, we just want to make sure that there's that the product or whatever you're creating is going to be helping someone. And this is, yeah, I say it very general, and it can be very specific for each industry, but let's keep it like that. And you can do this by observing, of course, where are the gaps in the market, if that's the case. And of course, sometimes you, as I said, sometimes you have an idea already, and maybe just reflecting on, okay, why can help you. And pick one. Let's see an example. Let's see, again, in the food industry. Okay, we know this is a real example some years ago when the sodium content started being like an issue, and especially in the chips, certain schools were banning, or the schools were banning the chips manufacturers to sell if they were exceeding some certain amount of sodium. So yeah, this is a problem, right? Like the sodium content in chips is too high and we can't sell them in schools. So you start asking why, and maybe these reasons are like really silly, but it's about illustrating and understanding the cause of why is that a problem. Maybe you think, yeah, the problem are the regulations. Yeah, the problem is that people don't like it. Yeah, maybe the seasonings contain a lot of salt, or maybe we want to be a healthy company. And pick one. How do you know which one to pick? Well, maybe in this case, you know that the regulations, you cannot change them, right? So they're going to be there. And maybe you have to be open to address that problem from a different avenue. So you start exploring from which avenue you can actually do something. And I'm just speaking here. Yeah, the sodium content is too high because the seasonings of the chips contain a lot of salt. So let's continue to the next phase, the ideation. So you have the problem. You identify the problem. Now you want to make sure to express every single idea that comes to your mind. It's super important. I really recommend to allocate and designate time and space to do this activity. First, because it's really fun, and second, because it's really productive, and third, because you really want to say, okay, in this moment, I'm gonna throw everything that is on my head, and I'm not gonna judge. And even the worst idea, put it there. And yeah, there are many other techniques. For example, if you're doing this with your partner or your team or with some friends, idea flipping. So you, I don't know, you have an idea and then you say, okay, what will be the worst version of this idea, or vice versa. Or building up is, okay, let's have an idea of paint all the doors pink because we want to make a nicer city. Let's just say like that. And then someone else builds up upon that idea. And transferred industries means, okay, you want to address, for example, an issue in the personal development space, and then you come with an idea on the car industry, just to see how would you apply it. And maybe it's something very silly at the beginning, but it might be, you know, like unleashing some other things that you cannot think about it otherwise. In this case, again, narrow down and again, pick one. Why? Because it's already complex enough. And you will always have the opportunity to come back if that was not the real, if that was not the right or the best way to keep addressing this problem. But it's about making a step forward and maybe two steps back, but still advancing. Let's see an example. We are coming from the seasonings contain a lot of salt, right? And then you throw a lot of ideas, including, for instance, change the seasoning, change the supplier, change maybe how the people perceive the salt, or maybe even add sugar. Pick one. Again, you will want to pick the one that you can have more influence. You want to pick something that you can maybe control better, if to say like that, or you have the resources to try it first. So yeah, the way of the less resistance might be the obvious choice to start with. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back and try the other option, the other idea. So let's go to the third phase, which is prototyping. Now you have your idea, and now you have to start materializing it. And it doesn't matter if it's a product or if it's a service. You have to start making it a little bit tangible. And you want to start maybe even testing your concept. I have an example of a concept here, but the concept can be translated as a catchy value proposition. And with that one, you can already see how are the people perceiving it. And even for you, it helps to clarify what are you actually wanting to offer. And if it's a product, you can start doing prototype besides of the concept by just maybe even drawing it, by building it. And if you want to go fancy, 3D printing it, or create early samples sometimes with, there are suppliers, right? That they produce small amounts of items. But we always want to go ideally from smaller to larger scales, and to smaller complexity to larger complexity. That will be the obvious. And this is why I also point out to the arrows coming back, because maybe even in this phase, okay, you start the concept, you test it, and it worked. And now from that concept, you go and create the next level of prototype, which will be a recipe from the chips, and so on, right? Like you test from different dimensions. And to finalize this slide, you can also materialize your service, again, by testing the concept, also by role-playing it. I don't know, you can try a session with first your friends or your mom, and then act it, figure out how is it really working and where are the loose ends, and correct them and go back. Let's see the example of prototyping. On the left, you're going to see a concept for what you're building against, okay, or to address the seasonings contain a lot of salt. This is a ChatGPT generated. So let's call it, crisp balanced chips. It's full flavor, less sodium. Crisp balanced chips deliver the perfect crunch and bold flavors you love without the excess of sodium. This is made with natural seasonings and a unique blend of herbs and spices. They keep taste at the forefront while reducing sodium for a smarter snack choice. So you want to kind of create something like that you are clarifying that you're not gonna you're gonna substitute the high amount of sodium by herbs, using herbs and seasonings, and this is where the flavor is coming from. That will be a concept. And now you can also start prototyping the first samples of chips in this case. So imagine that the sample A and sample B are two different recipes. And by the way, before in the earlier phases, I was also saying, okay, pick one. In this case, it might be helpful to have two because we are jumping to the next phase, which is testing. And so it's useful that if you have the resources and capacity, again, depending on what you are offering, you can have I would recommend between 1 or 3 versions so you can compare them. And you can start testing them. This is important with your target audience. Yes, you can start with your friends, but if you really want to hear the truth, you have to go into the wild and really be open. How do you gather information? Well, you can start with interviews, with surveys. If you have a lot of focus groups, might be also for bigger companies, but yeah, when I put pilot or small scale launch is because, for example, companies can start, once that they have tested a lot of things beforehand, can start launching in a small region just to understand what are the dynamics and what do they need to correct to start making that launch or expanding into other cities or other neighborhoods. That's what small scale launch is about. I think that we have also heard that there's no such thing as failure. It's just information, and it's very useful to have it in mind in this phase because it allows us to really be open and use those insights to improve the prototype and go back and test it again and again. And sometimes you need to accept that it's really not working and go back to the problem definition phase, because again, we want to create something that is actually helping and not creating a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. So we have to be very, very critical. Another point that I want to stress here is that it helps to have clear what do you want to test. Sometimes you can have 2 variables so that it's easier for us to analyze to really compare performances if that's the way that you're proceeding. But this, like all the phases have a lot of material behind. So we are just keeping it on the surface here, but those are the basics. And let's see an example of tasting. So this is something that happens a lot in the food industry when you are developing a new product. In this case, the guy is testing, I think, apples or pears, but imagine that those are chips. And I assume that this can be a triangle test, which means, okay, 2 of those samples are the same and the other one is different. But this person doesn't know. So all the 3 samples are blind. They only contain a number. And the goal for him, that this is why he has a test there, he needs to say which one is the different sample. And so, of course, there's a lot of statistics behind these tests. And depending on the results, they will analyze, the people developing these products will analyze if there's actually like a majority of people who can identify which one is the different sample or which one is, or no, if people can't actually perceive it. Yeah, that's a kind of interesting fact from the food industry on how they sometimes reduce sodium without compromising the taste in this case. And let's go to the development. Okay, once you have your best guess results, now it's time to refine for larger scales. But also, it's important to start doing the development smartly and start with the lower risk possible, especially if you are new in that industry, especially if it's your first launch and you want to be very mindful of your resources. And this is a phase where you want to, or you might need to start involving many other people, many other stakeholders, to really involve partners, to really get suppliers, and yeah, to really when things are going to happen. I'm just putting some examples here of everything that you have to, in the food industry, and in the case of these chips, you might need to understand, okay, where are you getting these potatoes in the first place? And maybe food processing will be already all the all the process of, okay, peeling the chips, slicing them, frying them, seasoning them, and all that stuff until it gets to consumer. You want to understand that. Of course, this is a particular example for the food industry. And my recommendation here is that whatever your creation is, again, start with the lowest risk possible, which means make smart choices that are not resting you flexibility of go back and iterate. So don't commit, for instance, to a super large volumes with a supplier if possible. You know, like sometimes you have to do it, but ideally you want to be really smart so that whatever you want to change afterwards, you can actually go back and doesn't become a bottleneck. So this is the framework again. Let's just review it because the launch is only the beginning. We started from the problem definition. We went then to ideation, where we throw a lot of post-its. We create and materialize something either from the concept or already tangible samples that you can touch, eat, smell, or a service that you can actually role play and act, and you test them. Finally, you development, and you're up for the launch. And as a conclusion, I just want to stress that this is only a guide. So, because innovation processes may start from any phase, not necessarily from the beginning, it's useful to see where you are so that you can maybe go back or go forward, depending on what is missing. Yeah, you can always reiterate. And something really cool here is that once you launch, you may want to go back if you want to either optimize your product to make it better or extend your line, for example. Like if you have candles in a specific shape and are working perfectly, then you want to think about, oh my God, what will be also cool and useful for my clients. And this is how the process starts again. Yeah, and this is what I had for us today. So I am open for any comments or questions or anything.
That was amazing, Pamela.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Laura.
That was so informative. Christina, do you have any questions? I feel like you
I'm
do.
just trying to think how I can apply that with my candle business. Because I mean, the testing part, I've done it myself because before I can sell it, I have to test it in terms of how they burn, you know, that are safe and everything. Also, I've tested it with some friends in terms of how they look, how they smell, if they're pretty, you know, if they would buy it. So I get it that testing you can do all the time, especially with candles. Also, if it comes in different shapes. But for me to take the business from there, I think that's where I have a little bit of a problem, like a little bit of an issue, to just like develop it, I guess. No, maybe.
Yes, and I would also see it maybe the testing part on your business model or in your selling points.
Yeah.
So
I think
that's
this what you said here, I think really helped me. I made the note of it. When you said we can have like a list of different ideas how to upscale it, I guess in my case, right? And you can choose any, and if it doesn't work, you can just go back and choose a different one and then work with that. So I think that's I don't know, that got my attention, so I made a note of it just to keep in mind that it's not a fail. It's just, you know, another part of the testing, I guess. And I can always go back and see whatever didn't work, choose something else, see what sticks.
Exactly. And this is why also the recommendation of start with the lower risk possible from where you are. It's also smart because you want to be flexible and go back whenever you need it, because you need that information. You're exploring the field and you're not jumping from problem definition to development, but rather small steps. And just also something that came to my mind to back to the testing and the where do you want to sell, or where is smart to sell. Maybe even let's say that there are, I don't know, market in your neighborhood, so like every Sundays, and you can even test the hours of when is it smart to be for you to be there, or with different audiences. So maybe, I don't know, outside the parks. I'm just throwing ideas here, but these are also small tests that can give you some information of what's better to sell it.
Yeah, I guess it's like you said, choose the choice that you can control better and immediately. That will make an impact, and you can control it like immediately. Because like you said, with the chips, you can change the seasoning, you can change the supplier, but it's a bit harder to change people's perception about salt, right? So pick the choices that you can immediately
whatever you can influence at the moment.
Thank you.
Really cool. Thank you. Christelle?
I was actually thinking of Christina's business as we were talking then as well, but I guess some of the things coming up in my head as well, I guess between the time where you said you stopped last year, or you took a pause, has anything changed in the people that you were looking to target, for lack of a better word? Like, so is your problem definition the same, or is it different? Have you got the same audience in mind, or have they changed? Or could you consider, do you need to consider a change as well? That could be part of your thinking in the process.
Yeah, I think last year I started the business from a lack mindset. Like I needed to make money because I had like an issue with my day-to-day job. And also because of that, I kind of underpriced my candles, because everything is natural. Everything is organic. Like my wax is coconut wax. There's no paraffin in it. It's 100% natural. I use it with myself and with my son. I gave it to friends who have pets in their houses. Even the little jars that I put the candles in, I make myself with material called jasmonite, which is environmentally friendly. So everything is 100% natural and environmentally friendly. But coming from a place of lack, I kind of like underpriced it, because I thought, you know, if it's less, everyone's
just need
going to
to
buy it,
sell, or
and it had the opposite effect, right?
Yeah.
Some of my friends bought it, but kind of that's it.
Yeah. And
So
whereas I
now
guess the
I'm gonna
reality,
go.
yeah,
So
yeah,
this
is that
year
there's a
I
huge
came.
market.
Yes. So now I'm thinking. I'm thinking garden centers. I'm thinking like wholesale instead of just going to the markets, which I don't mind going to the markets, but I feel like it's in a sense it's easier if I have like the market you can go Saturday and Sundays, right? But I'm thinking I want to make money Monday till Friday as well, not just in the weekend. So I was thinking more like upscale it to garden centers. And my son's dad, he knows a lot of people, and I haven't asked for his help before, but Friday just happened that we were in a garden center, a very fancy one, and he said something along the lines that he knows the owner, and I said, "Oh, actually, now that you're mentioning, do you mind? Can you talk to him?" So we'll take
Yeah.
it from there. So hopefully we'll go somewhere. But last year I wouldn't have asked for his help, or I would have thought, "Oh, he will never help me," or and I wouldn't even entertain the thought. So I think my mindset also changed this year.
And
So I'm
like
not
your
say again.
No, I was just going to say your product positioning would be different as well, because like you said, coming from a place of lack and underpricing versus a place of abundance where actually the people are looking for non-toxic products. It costs money to make it. People are willing to pay for it. My product will sell. It's valuable.
Yes, and they're
Yeah,
handmade. I make every product myself.
exactly. Yeah. It's a
But
huge
it's a
shift.
huge difference in just that. It's just a huge difference in my attitude towards it. Like I feel like I trusted the product before, but now I feel confident that people will appreciate the materials that it's made with. And honestly, it's like everyone wants something natural in their house, I think.
It's
And I
really
think
cool.
also, go Crystal. Yeah. I think this is the type of assumptions that you can also test. Like, does anyone really want, like self-made and natural products in their house? Because yeah, some people might want, some other people don't care, and you might want to actually go into that niche closer and closer and closer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get that people just go to Tesco and get the 2 pounds candles. I get that. Like, they don't care. They just want a candle in their house. So yes, it's not going to be for everyone. It's just going to be I guess, it's just going to be for people who want that, what I offer. Like the
Yeah.
little story behind the product.
Exactly.
Because
And
at the
that's
end
the
of the day, you
concept,
don't
right?
just buy the product, right? You buy the lifestyle. Like, I have an iPhone, I have an iPad, I have a MacBook Pro. It's not just the item itself. It's the lifestyle that comes with the product that you're buying.
Exactly. Yes. And I think that once you have like very defined what, like, that's the why, like, why are you offering this? That can also kind of guide you on how to position or where to position, and also the concept tagline, I don't know, you can have fun on what is the proposition and the excitement and what's different about the candles and who is it for. And that can maybe orient you on and create your experiments. And also you were mentioning about the price.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if you go and do a lot of testings, it's also over engineering, but there are also price points that you can test in different stores, just for your information. But yeah, I think it's really, really fascinating. And I saw the pictures of your candles, and are really beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Everything is really just like all of these steps and all of these tests are really just getting around your own belief systems. Like if you believe that no one's going to buy your chips if you have less salt, you're like, oh, but if we take the salt down, no one's going to buy the chips. So you do all of these tests to get around your own belief system to be like, oh, no, actually, we could take the salt down. People will still like them. And then you're like, it's all like, because everything in reality is just beliefs and definitions of everything. So it's like can I tell you a quick story? It's really quick.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's about products. In 2019, I wrote and self-published a children's book, and I wrote to a couple of publishers, and I was like, "Does anyone want to publish my children's book?" And like, got no responses. And then when I first bought Dr. Joe's course, and I was doing Dr. Joe's course, I sat to meditate one day, and you know those meditations that are just really good, and you know something's changed in your life.
Yes.
Got up for this meditation. I was like, I'm not the same person that sat down to meditate at the start of this meditation. Went on my emails and I had a random offer to publish this children's book.
Oh, yeah.
That's so exciting.
From that like I knew, like I didn't sit to intend on creating that, but I think I released a limitation that allowed me to allow that in. And I was like, oh my God, Dr. Joe is actually like legit. And that's why I carried on doing his course, because that happened. I was like, wow. The coincidence was crazy.
We can have like a whole discussion, like a whole different webinar about us talking of different little stories that happen. And honestly, I've only been meditating constantly since the beginning of January, but I've been doing it at least twice a day. So it's every morning, even in the weekends when Ezra's not doing the morning meditation, I wake up by myself and do it myself, right? So every morning at 4 or 5 I have it. Then I have it in the evening after my son goes to sleep. If he's at my house, I do the tuning into new potential. And then during the day, I try to do maybe twice a week a walking meditation. I try to do the Materialize meditation, whatever it is, right? But I wasn't even thinking of starting again the candle business. But all of a sudden, I received a phone call, because when I put the candle business on the Google Maps, I had to put my phone number. And this lady called me saying, hey, is the candle shop open today? And I was like, well, actually, it's not like, it's like just you can go on our website to order. And then all of a sudden I posted the photos in the group, and everyone was like, oh, they're so cute. And I was like, okay, you know what, actually there's something there. I wasn't meditating around this idea of the candle business, but I was thinking I've got so many and I haven't sold them yet, you know, like I have like home decor little stuff. But I think also I have to like downscale a bit, because I liked so many different things that I have a lot of everything. So now I just have to choose like maybe 5 types of candles that you can burn, 5 like decorative ones, because there's some that you can just decorate your house with, you know, there's no point in burning them. And maybe some like 5 or a few items of the home decor, just not to, because if it's too many, I kind of get lost in what I want to do next. So it was just like all of a sudden, not to mention that my lack of, you know, the mindset of lack is kind of like going away slowly. Still working on that. But the meditations really work.
I think that's really true. Like, and when I was doing this presentation, I also started thinking how important it is to let the magic appear, right? Because like it's a fine line where you actually want to control everything, but also kind of know when to, you know, let the ideas pop up and not be super rigid. So it's an art. This is again my best guess on how to move from one place to another, kind of to orient us, but not be super rigid and not take it as a rule. So really important that you shared that, Christina, because yes, the unknown is really magical. But thank you so much. I don't know. So that was all. I guess if there are other questions. Crystal, you have another question.
I just wanted to tie this back into what you're doing with the group, Laura, as well, I think. If you go back a slide, if you could, Pamela. So using the group is actually like a, like an innovation nest, or you could call it something like that, right? Which is we have a problem or an idea or whatever it is. We try and create it, and we try it out, we prototype it, we test it. I feel like that's what you're trying to create, right? Is this little safe space for people to do that.
That's kind of the flow that I just naturally fell into in this community. Is like I would just get an idea and I'd be like, this is a group of people that are just
test it out,
doing anything.
Yeah.
And that's so amazing to have a group of people that are just up for just down for the ride. So like if we throw a disco, like people are just like, go on then, let's give it a go. Like everyone is just up for the unknown. And that's such a magical thing because we all get to just try random stuff.
Yeah.
And unique stuff and try things. And there really is no such thing as failure. Like I've technically failed at so many different things in the I Am Frequency community. I fail all the time. Like I just do random things and like people aren't into it and I'm just like, okay, cool, I'll just do that on my own. Like it never feels like failure. It always just feels like just having fun and trying loads of different things.
Yeah. And I think it's I guess we're doing things online and remote, but even what Christina, what you're doing, you can still kind of gain feedback from that process. Like, how you kind of said, oh, people were reacting to it thinking, oh, this is kind of cool. What I'm doing has got some value. People see the beauty in it. So even though you're not, we can't hold your product maybe, unless we lived close by to you, in which case, maybe, we can still order it, or we can do things like that, but we can still be a part of the journey, contribute somehow to the process.
Yeah.
So I think
I
that's
mean,
really
if
cool.
you guys know, I don't know, the manager at TK Maxx or, like people who are buying wholesale.
Yeah.
And because you're hosting a candle workshop with us on next
Saturday.
Friday. There's nothing
Yeah.
stopping you from hosting one with us and then being like, oh, I actually love that. Now I know the flow. I know how to run an online workshop, and then doing like a ticketed one on Eventbrite. And you've already done one with us.
It's so funny you say that because I went to Mariana's walking meditation today, right? So last night I was like, I don't think I'm going to go. I'm not in the mood. Today I was like, no, this is the unknown. You go because you're being in your house all day long. So the unknown. I go to the meditation. Afterwards, we go for a tea. Ilsa is there. Ilsa does marketing. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad you said what you're doing. Let me ask you something. And she gave me like lots of great ideas. But one of it was, okay, so you do the webinar on the group. Why don't you try to do like corporate webinars? Because there are lots of companies that they're looking to connect to their people through different activities. And this linked to one of my idea. My ex-husband, he's very wealthy, and he's paying my son's private school. So I was thinking to talk to the head teacher because they're all into like different type of activities for the kids to do, right? And I was like, why don't I can offer maybe for the older years, I can offer like a candle making, or even maybe with the jasmonite, like because it's kind of like more they have to work with their hands on jasmonite. Candle making, maybe it's a bit too, it has to be hot, maybe it's a bit like it's too much for the kids. But the other one, so that also linked with, in my head, kind of like they all came together. but I wouldn't have
Mm.
thought of this 2 weeks ago, you know?
Tune into those new potentials.
Yes.
Dr. Joe is on something. And it works.
I think the other
Yeah.
thing I wanted to, I keep meaning to mention to you, Laura, and I think you touched on this, I don't remember when. We are all from such different walks of life and backgrounds, etc. I think there could be a space where we share exactly what we do, and if we can, you know, either help each other in the current industries or spaces we are, or to get to where we want to be, which might be completely pivoting. I think that would be a really valuable thing to do. Like what you shared today, Pamela, is kind of helping to maybe pivot people out or continue on the same journey. But just sharing what we do, because you might be interested in working in the space I'm interested in, yet you might be able to help me pivot out somewhere, you know. And being like-minded, I think, helps you identify the person's values and their purpose, and I think that would be super useful.
This is kind of what these talks are turning into. It's turning into
Yeah.
us actually discovering what each other do, which is
Yeah.
really what a community is. It's like us actually knowing who each other are. And I think there's so much value if we, like, now I know that I can go to Pamela whenever I want advice about products. I didn't know.
Yeah, it's kind of like socializing, right? But you're not going out. Like,
Networking. Yeah.
and it's more fun when like people don't, you know, if you come up with a weird idea, people don't look at you and judge you like you're crazy, you know. Like some of my friends are like, oh, it's Christina again, like no, they just put it on like it's the weird stuff she's talking about again. But now like here I can just talk, you know, and like no one's gonna think, oh, that's weird.
This is what I love about this community as well, because like there's some people that I go to in the 3D that are like, no, Laura, don't do that. But when I come to
Yeah.
people in the community, they're like, do it tomorrow.
Yes.
Start doing it now. Like, and that's what you want. People that even if they know you're going to fail, they just say, yes, do it. Just fail and then learn something new. And then you'll have new ideas from that failure.
Yeah, it's a trial and error because you have to try. Even with my son, for example, like I'm happy for him to take any class, right? Just to see how it goes. But in the same time, I have to do that as well. Because if I do nothing, then he'll look at me like, oh, but you know, you're not doing anything. I can't just tell him to go for a run and be like, I'll wait for you eating some chips at home. You know, like now we go together for a run in the morning. And he doesn't mind if it's raining. And I'm like, oh my God, what did I do?
Love it.
I really think that with all that you just said, Laura, these talks help us to understand our why.
Yes,
You know, so it's super cool.
they do. They really do. And it's immediate feedback as well from what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And yeah, if I can help further with more ideas later, I would be more than happy to do it. Really.
Pamela, I think we're all going to be in touch with our ideas.
Amazing. I would love to. I would love to help. And the ideation part is my favorite.
What ideation?
Ideation is where you go crazy and are open for all possibilities. When you when you go and grab post-its and, well, that's a formal process, right? Or when you're in the shower and an idea pops up, or what Christina was sharing about the Eventbrite, or all the people that suddenly she contacted.
When you open
That's the
yourself to
ideation
the
part.
unknown.
Yeah.
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 Yes, so now I'm gonna make flyers and I'm gonna just go to different shops and like garden centers and just give it to people there, like the managers, and leave my I haven't done that before. It was just an idea, but then I was like, why not? Like I've got nothing to lose. You know, the worst case scenario, they just say we don't need you. We don't need any more products, whatever.
What about making some little small ones as well that you can share maybe with some more higher value kind of, like the garden center where they might want to see the product as well.
Yeah, I've got loads of already done, so I can take like a little box with me with
Yeah,
different with different ones. I've got loads of that. Yeah.
yeah.
And you
Cool.
can also, since you were saying that you needed to pick, I don't know, I think you said around five, or select more or less.
Yeah.
You can also take advantage of the people that are already buying you, and maybe send them a link to a survey so that they
Yeah.
can pick the ones that are more attractive. Again, ideally with your customers, we can also help you, of course, and you can
Yeah, I'll
have
just spam the group. I'll be
hint.
like, what do you think? This,
Yeah.
or this?
Yeah. And you
I'll
can
just send you all
also,
loads of photos.
you could also help or gather that feedback and incentivize the next sale, to say it like that, with, I don't know, a
Yes.
10% discount. Thank you for
Yes.
answering my survey, stuff like that. I'm
Sure.
not a
Sure. Yeah.
business
Good idea.
expert, but it's just
Yeah.
ideas. It's really,
That's a
really
good
cool.
idea. Thank you.
Cool.
Amazing.
So let's stay in touch with this. And I'm looking forward for more talks in the future.
Thank you so much, Pamela. Does anyone have any more questions?